Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Oliver, and today I have a very special guest, Sabrina Morris, and she is a lifestyle promoter, correct? That's how you introduce yourself. So I'm really excited to learn more about you today, and I'm so honored to have you here. She's very special, and she's going to share not only about her, but also a little bit about her mother's story, which I know you all are going to enjoy. And Sabrina, I always just like to mention at the beginning of every interview, as you know, our entire reason for being here is really just to encourage, inspire, lift up, pave the way for any woman that is potentially, maybe she's considering taking the entrepreneurial leap, but perhaps she's just wanting to jump off a cliff for another reason. And I'm joking, but maybe it's just time for her to bet on herself. And that could look very different to every woman, depending on what kind of story she wakes up in at 40, 50, 60, 70. It doesn't matter the age, but that is the intention of these interviews. And so I appreciate your heart and your willingness to be here. And I'm really excited to learn more. Do you want to share just a little bit about who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Yes, but first, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to encourage the ladies, and I'm looking forward to sharing with each and every one of you today. And Michelle, she was at an event and she was asked to show up at a last minute notice. And she did, and she did an amazing job when she presented. So something else I didn't share with you, but my grandmother's surname is Oliver. So when I first met you, I was like, an Oliver. Oh, wow, this is so exciting.
Well, that was actually, I'm divorced. That was my married name, but I prefer that name over my other name. So I don't know, just sounds better. But I forgot that's where we met. So thank you for acknowledging that. Yeah, I feel like we are all part of a collective. And it bothered me that somebody canceled at the last minute. So I drove 2 hours for this little networking thing. But I feel like every time something comes into our field of awareness, we have an opportunity to respond to it in one way or the other, right? So yeah, I just try to step up for all of us. So thank you for the shout out. That was
Well,
very
thank you
generous.
for doing that.
Yeah, well, see, we were meant to meet, and that may have been the entire reason. Who knows? There's a
Yes.
beautiful plan bigger than all of us. So Sabrina, tell us a little bit about you.
So,
Please.
as Michelle said, I'm a lifestyle promoter. I branded myself that way. My business was birthed through my own personal pain. I worked for corporate America, and I would always report into the upper echelons, meaning VPs and above, because I was a niche consultant as an enterprise architect. And so a lot of people say, oh my gosh, Sabrina, what do all those words mean? So, in a nutshell, let's just take a step back because this is about each and every one of you. Robert Kiyosaki does an amazing quadrant that talks about how money is earned. Every single one of you ladies need to understand that and then take a step back and decide which quadrant is right for you. I can talk a lot about my history in the E quadrant, but today we're going to quickly cover each of the four quadrants. The E quadrant is what Michelle was asking me in terms of my background. E stands for employee. You get up, you go to work, they tell you when you can go to the restroom, when you can eat, how many breaks you can have, if you can have vacation or not. Then you do what they tell you to do. If they want your input, they may or may not use it. And then you drive back home, you have your time, and you get up and do it again. That's the E quadrant. The E quadrant stands for employee. You are now an employee of someone else. F quadrant is the self-employed quadrant. In other words, if you don't show up that day, the work doesn't get done. If you're not strategic in the S quadrant, that's what happens. Then my favorite, which is on the other side, and I talk a little bit about it in the book behind me as well, but on the other side is the B quadrant, which is the big business quadrant. I get excited. That's why I stumble over my words. When you say B quadrant or I quadrant, I go, oh, yes. So the B quadrant is big business, and that's a key word I'm going to use here, and that is leverage. I'm going to say it again, leverage. In the B quadrant, that's where you and your team, the leverage team, not one person anymore, you and your team are leveraging other people's talents, skills, connections, and abilities. So E people or employees or those in the E quadrant report to the B, okay, the big businesses. And then the final quadrant is the investment quadrant, and that is my favorite. Surprised I didn't stumble over that, ladies. The investment quadrant is when your money makes money.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that's the fun part. You can be sleeping in I call them your soldiers, or your money is out there making you money. So those are the key ways, and each and every one of you should take a step back and say, which quadrant do I want to play in? Or if you're happy in the E quadrant, I'm like, yes, rock it, do it. But if you're thinking about transitioning as an entrepreneur, Sabrina, okay, I'm going to give you ladies my little bias. I would recommend you focus on the B, the business quadrant, and the I, the investment quadrant.
Okay. That is, first of all, very valuable information. And if anyone hasn't read the book, go read the book, or actually get your book. That would be even better. I know I'm sitting here listening to you, and by the time you're kind of in midlife, you should have enough data to understand where your natural inclination is, like in terms of whether you want, some people are great employees, like that's the best fit for you. To me, when you're saying that, I'm thinking that's the shoot me now quadrant for me. It's like, I'm sorry, that's a terrible joke, but, I would be fired. Like, I'm the unemployable person. I'm sorry, I am.
Well, and to your point, and you don't even have to apologize. That's the whole point of having the discussion, because
Yeah.
if you know yourself well enough and you're in the E quadrant doing like I did, where I was like, oh my gosh, and you're right. I didn't want to shoot myself now. I wanted to shoot all the crazy people around me, but we're not going to jail. God does not like me doing that, right? Remember he put, what was it, the one guy's ear back on and healed it? No. So I do that.
We're joking, everyone. Disclaimer: you can talk that way in Colorado because it's still like we still have this Wild West rancher mentality. So it's a joke. Just kidding.
It is a joke. That's why I said you do not want to shoot anybody. You don't want to shoot yourself. Guns are not involved here. What we're going to use is our brain, and we're going to say, okay, if the E quadrant's not working, what else will work?
Yeah.
How am I going to transition? What does that look like? I didn't even know I could transition. Oh my gosh, I'm not stuck in the E quadrant. That's a revelation in itself.
So what is a lifestyle promoter? Help us understand what that is. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So a lifestyle promoter, and I started down one path and went down the other. So thank you for bringing me back.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can go either way. If you want to continue on that way, we can come back to this. Because okay, it's up to you. Like, all of it is valuable. And let me just, another disclaimer here. Sabrina has a lot to offer, as every single woman that has been on this interview series. And you will see more of her coming in to do trainings and panels. So everything she shares today is not everything. It's a little tip of the iceberg. It's a piece of who she is. So you feel welcome to go in any direction. It's all valuable. Whatever you want to do, it's good.
Well, I like the path that you started down, because a lot of women may be hurting in that E quadrant and saying, what's next? Yeah. So I'm going to share my pain with each and every one of you from the standpoint to say, don't do what I do. And I'm going to clarify, do not make the mistakes Sabrina did. So reporting into upper echelons, E-quadrant, solving executive problems as an enterprise architect, and I was so focused. So when you report in at that level, you want to take a vacation. If you want to take a vacation, all of a sudden you're not dedicated. Okay. So then I bought into the craziness. That was my decision. I could have told them no, I'm going on vacation, but I didn't.
Mhm.
So I would work, work, work. I didn't even have a hobby, lady, and that is sad. And so I would work, 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 work. I'd see my doctor, and she would lean in, and she said, Sabrina, when are you going to quit that job? The
Really?
lifestyle, yes. Every time I would see her, Sabrina, and then one time she even hit, when we sit, you know how she has us sit up there, and she hits the thing, Sabrina, when are you going to quit that job?
What?
Because
So your health was showing
yes,
stress signs, or what was going on?
yes. Anytime we do not have balance, and there are some people out there who say, well, you never can have balance. Well, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But when you're so skewed, when you're work, 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 that's that, I call it the American way of doing things where people work, they live to work. I
Mhm.
like the way Europeans do it, where they work to live life, where they take a month vacation, where they take vacation is so important. So the lifestyle promotion came about through my own pain, whereby we can get caught into this skew. Mine was corporate America. Some women, they give all of themselves to their family and they don't take me time. Same
Yeah.
principle. You just work, 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 because when you raise children, that's a whole nother level of work. That's the toughest job out there that I
Yeah.
don't think enough uh, uh, recommend
Acknowledgement.
or thank you
Yeah.
acknowledgement, and because you're doing the hardest thing, you're raising the next generation, you're planning into them, you're okay. So I can go on and on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take this moment to celebrate all the mothers out there who actually focus most of their energy on their families. I appreciate you, I applaud you, but you also have to take care of you, because if you don't take care of you, how are you going to take care of anyone else? If your health is at risk, how are you going to help your children or your husband? So you have to have time for you as well. So the lifestyle promoter is all about that work-life balance. How do we spend valuable time with our family and friends? How do we, does that make sense? How do we have hobbies?
Absolutely. So you're focused on um, building a life, and then everything else becomes different compartments of your life, and you're choosing it over your values and everything, right? So it trickles down from like, who are you? What lifestyle do you want? Rather than, okay, this is my business and I build my life around my business and sacrifice my family and my health and everything because they're telling me that's what I have to do in order to someday have a lifestyle. So you
Yeah.
chose to make that a priority. So, oh, I love that. Okay, and that's what you promote. Life's
Yes, and I have the tools to do.
okay.
Uh, yes, the company that I promote, we have the tools to allow you to create those family memories, spend time with your family, exploring the world the way you like to do it. And earlier today, there's many different ways that people like to travel. Some people don't like to go anywhere. They just want to do a staycation. Well, a lot of us have, and I'm not a travel agent, ladies. My hats go off to travel agents because that's a lot of work. So there are ways that, even in your backyard, you can take the weekend and do something fun. A lot of us live in cities that is a place where many people travel to. So you can have access to all of those different adventures, each of the tours that they do. You can do all of that. So that's where I like to sit down with singles in particular, because a lot of singles think, oh, I have to work, I don't have a spouse. I have to put all my energy in work. I can't really play as much. I don't have anybody to go with me. No. So it makes it fun when I sit across from people who are looking to explore more of the world and they think they can't go because of the cost. And then I show them how much it costs. One lady, I saw a little tear roll down the side of her face because she was a single mom and her desire was always to take her daughter to Japan. And she saw that dream a reality. So that's the rewards that we celebrate in our business when we see people creating memories with their family, when they're living their life. That's it. Living their life through its, hobbies, through uh, Super Bowl, through math, whatever you like to do. Enjoy your life.
So you have a business that allows people to travel and access even local um, adventures. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. Okay, that's cool. So do you want to share more about your business, or do you want to share how you got into your business? Do you want to tell us more about what it is? Because I'm not sure that there's clarity around exactly what you do. Do you want to share more about that?
Sure, sure. What we do is it's easier to see it. That's why the clarity gets a little confusing. So what we do is we literally show you the platform on how you can gain access to some of the most amazing adventures, either in your backyard, across
I
the ocean. So
okay.
it's very confusing, and I'm open to sharing that with anyone. It's free of charge. We do share it and show you how easy it is to book it and go. I'll go to your second. Did you have?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is I think what we'll probably do is have Sabrina come do a presentation on one of our monthly things so you can learn more about what she does, and you can also reach out to her so you hear more of the details. But basically, she's facilitating these adventures. And so why don't, and I know we also want to get to your moms, which is a big part of our interview today. So what I understand is the reason you took this entrepreneurial leap, right? Was because you were tired of this corporate thing, your health, you're sacrificing everything, and you flipped the script. And now you have found a way to have your lifestyle be at the top of your pyramid, let's say, and then everything you do feeds into that. And then you're helping lift other people for that. Am I right on track?
100%. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, great. So, do you want to share a little bit about your mom? Is it too early to do that, or you want to go into this?
No, I will
Okay.
definitely go into it.
Okay.
Definitely go into it. So,
Let's hear
ladies,
about your mom, because this is kind of like how we started the whole thing. Like, come tell us about your mom's adventure. And I want you to know Sabrina too, but let's hear a little bit about this story.
yes. So my mother was an amazing entrepreneur. In the book behind me, the portion of the book that I wrote was dedicated to her memory. She has already transitioned to be with the Lord, and she was so unique as a woman and a mother. She started well, she was an entrepreneur her whole life, pretty much. My grandfather owned multiple businesses, and he would tell my brother, son, you got my brother's son, if I had done half the things my mother told me, I would be a millionaire one or two times over. But he wouldn't listen to my mother. My mother was the woman in the family where they say, you can give her, take away all her money and leave her with a nickel, and she would have all of that money and then some.
Wow. So she had this kind of inborn entrepreneurial mind, and she
Yes.
was a visionary. I know people like that. I mean, I have that kind of problem where you get like these downloads of opportunity, but it takes a very special person to monetize those. So tell us, because that's what you're saying, like everything she touches turns to,
Yes,
money or turns to gold.
yes, which is a beautiful gift to have. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful gift. And I remember my mother being on the earth when I was struggling with the E quadrant. And I was crying out to God one day, driving to the E quadrant. And I,
You're so fun, Sabrina. Okay.
it
Yeah.
was it was awful. Tears, not it was bad,
I'm
you
so,
know. And then I had to clean all that up to go into the E quadrant, you know, and do what I needed to do. And about 3 days later, God gave me an answer, which is the business we were just talking about a moment ago. And my mother saw the opportunity. Now, my mother was watching me, and she's really good about doing this. She always said she was our mother first because that's what God is going to hold her in account for being, period.
mhm.
You know, if she says something you don't like, it's too bad. But you need to listen. And
Yeah.
that's how she was. So she watched me. She watched me make the decision to take the opportunity in and say, yes, I want to do this, but I was not moving fast enough. I was not pursuing it like I needed to. So this is the type of mother I had. She saw the business herself, so she was like, oh, this is a great idea. It fits her perfectly because when people see me, they think, oh, she's going to go on a vacation soon and win, you know? So
Yeah.
the, so it ran very well with me and who I was as a person and what I like to do. So that's one thing I would say for all the ladies that are listening and you're thinking about going into the B quadrant, think about yourself and what you enjoy doing and leverage that. If you're an artist, leverage that. If you like helping people, leverage whatever your strengths are, leverage that. So my mother said she noticed that I had this opportunity, amazing opportunity, which she saw, and I was not going all in.
Mm.
Because I was not going all in, she said to me, baby, now you asked God for an answer, he gave it to you. You're either gonna crap or get off the pot, but make a decision. And I was like, oh, you know, you hear it, but it's not here because some of us are loyal to a fault. We're like, okay, I've spent so much energy in this one thing, let's make it work. And in my case, I spent all of this energy in the E quadrant, let's make it work, even though I was underpaid 6 figures. That's insane. That's insanity. So I have to say, don't make this mistake Sabrina made. If it's really weighing on you as an individual, that something is better out there for you, what's next for me, I would tell you, I wouldn't say quit your job tomorrow unless you had a stockpile of cash that could still cover your bills. But there's a smart way to transition from the E quadrant to the BNI quadrant. One thing my mother always said to us, she always believed in multiple revenue streams, multiple background, multiple careers. So she would say, you know, college wasn't for everybody, but if it's not for you, you need to be very well skilled in whatever it is that you're going towards.
Yeah.
So one key is to start learning. If you're working in the E quadrant, you say, Sabrina and Michelle, there's no way I could quit my job tomorrow. They're getting on my nerves. They're doing crazy things. I can't take this anymore. What should I do to get started to look at having my own business or look at investing? The first thing I would say is start learning, start training, go to courses. Now, I'm not necessarily saying college courses because there's a lot of the training that you have in the BNI quadrants, unless you want to own an accounting firm and you've never had an accounting class, then you need to go to college and go down that path. Or you want to be a CPA, start
Mhm.
down that path. And you say, oh, I want to own my own CPA firm. Start down the path while you have your regular job. So that way, once you finish school, and now you can reassess.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. You can do more than one thing at a time for sure. So what businesses did your mom have?
My mother had she was a real estate investor. She owned several properties. She was a single mother, by the way, owned multiple properties, and she also owned her own tax company as well.
How did that start? So you grew when you grew up, give us like a narrative, like as growing up, do you have siblings?
Yes, I have one brother that my mother birthed, but I also have all these other brothers who also saw my mother as their mother too,
And
because she was that.
you are the only girl?
Yes, I'm the only girl. Well, I have a couple of extra sisters too. My mother had so many extra children. It's
Okay, that's
like,
amazing. So she was single, she was raising you and your brother. And then was how did she get into real estate investing?
well, I remember as, oh man, I think I was in high school, and she had a really good friend who was also an investor. In fact, she bought blocks of properties in Colorado. And I remember she and my mother having lots of conversations about real estate and how the benefits of it and how you can get that I call it mailbox money or residual income. And so, being a single mother, she had to leverage every avenue of revenue streams as possible. So, my mother went back to the city that she knew, which is her hometown in Texas. I would say, if anybody was looking first, train, learn, and then invest in the city that you know, because you're going to know the pockets that are not good. You're going to know the places that are great and why. You're going to know where people
Yeah,
are moving. I can go
that's
on and on.
really solid real estate advice. I've heard that many times before.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
So, so that's how she did. She did it. She went back to, my grandfather was very well known in Texas. And so, it paid. This is a way she used her dad's net worth to become her net worth, because she found a couple of sellers that were willing to carry the note. So she didn't have, there's so many out of the box
She
ideas.
got creative right from the get-go to make
Right?
it work, and she just dove in and started learning.
Yes. And a lot of real estate investors, I've had lots of discussions, heated discussions in a fun way, about sweat equity. My mother believed in sweat equity. I remember when I was in middle school, I was hanging sheetrock, letting and taping. Why? And I didn't like it at all. I was like, oh, I don't like this. And my mother leaned in. She said, baby, one day you may decide to do this. And if you do, you need to know, number one, you don't like it. And number two, how it needs to be done and how it's done the right way. So that when you hire somebody, they can't pull the wool over your eyes at that point. So you'll know. I'm like, no, no, no. You see those things? Mm-mm. That's, do it again. No, I'm not paying you for that. You see what I'm saying? Because you
Oh,
understand.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything I've done, I totally agree. You gotta do it. And then you hire. Otherwise, how do you know what the quality is? So totally get that. So your mom was a real estate investor. Tell us more about her story.
Oh, wow. Her story, very, let's see. Well, when she transitioned, I'm going to tell each of you a little bit about the type of woman she was. I know there's this big, I call it a myth because I haven't seen it that way, a myth that single women cannot raise men. That's not true. It depends on the woman and her love for the children. Now, my mother had all of her pallbearers when she transitioned. All of her pallbearers were her sons. And if you were to tap one of those guys on their shoulder and said, "That's not your mother's body," I would not want to be around when that happened. But she had such an impact on each and every one of those gentlemen's lives. And they will tell you to this day, my life would have been so much worse if mother did not step and tell me how it is. She didn't care about, oh, are your feelings hurt? Let me say it this way. No, she made it plain in a way that you can understand what she's communicating and why. And a lot of us we would tease my mother when she was on the earth. We'd say, Mother, when you leave, we're still going to hear your wisdom. We're still going to hear your voice. And we all of her children joked about it. And I remember on the day that she transitioned, we were all having the conversation and we were all saying that, like, yes, something happened to me last week, and I could hear Mother say, blah, 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 blah. And we all start laughing. So she always told us, if even today, even though she's not physically here on the earth, her legacy was how to respond to tough situations. You know,
Okay.
what happens when you're faced with a challenge you don't quite understand? What do you do? What do you pivot toward? How do you handle that? She fed us so much over time that I can't cover it all right now. Kind of like you
No, and
said.
I'm not asking you to cover it all right now, but I think that that's a really good topic to just talk about when, especially like that comes up in real estate because you've got cycles, right? And that comes up in any business, and we've all just been hit by that through the pandemic. Everybody kind of had this common, uh, you know, trauma that happened, I guess you could call it. And so, what words of wisdom would you share with the audience that you learned from your mom around how to respond to something that maybe is out of control? And maybe you've had something like that in your life as well.
Well, that's an excellent question because when 2020 hit, the cervezas, when the cray cray hit, my brother and I were joking because uh, Michelle asked me earlier, where am I living now? I sold my house in Seattle with the intent of traveling the world and being a product of our products starting in
Uh,
2020, guys. So we know how that started.
Everything, right? Travel 2020. I don't think those two words are friendly
Well,
together. Yeah.
yes, a lot of people were like, Sabrina, you think you're going to take this trip? No, it's all canceled. So my brother and I were kind of laughing. I stay at my brother's in between trips, and he's in Colorado. And my mother always taught us since we were younger that there are certain staples or certain kinds of foods or even toilet paper and toilet tissue that you just keep because you don't know what's going to happen. So when everyone else was running out to grab toilet tissue and toilet paper, we were already stopped. It was kind of like that's just something you do. You just don't. How do you run out of toilet? If my brain does not wrap around that. So it's the little things, and like she taught us, how to keep certain canned goods because certain canned goods make quick meals. Because if let's say everybody had a run on the grocery stores and all the shelves were white cleaned, she never taught us to go to the store for today's meal, make it. Oh, got to go back tomorrow, make it. No, you have a stock of basic staples so that if everything closed down tomorrow, we would still be good for at least 6 months because that's what she taught us as kids. Things like that.
Interesting. That's so interesting. So she had a preparedness mentality,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like she thought very strategically, and she was looking out long term. A lot of entrepreneurs don't, I shouldn't say a lot, but some do not think like that. Like they're very much the opposite of that. So that's probably why she was able to monetize so well. And
Okay.
she also had these other qualities. Um, okay, so is there another, like if there, so I think that's great, the preparedness. What if something unexpected happens? Like, did that ever happen to you guys in real estate? Did she have other businesses as well, or was it like primarily investments?
It was primarily investment. But you brought up another good point that I forgot to address. Ladies, forgive me. So my mother, in terms of real estate, over time, she had paid off both of those properties. So they're free and clear. So whether or not, so there's two ways to invest. One for appreciation, which is you buy a property. Those are the flippers. You buy, fix it up, and a lot of them don't use sweat equity to do that. They pay. So
Mhm.
you fix it, and then you pop it back on the market, you buy the next one. It's kind of like they went back to the E quadrant because that's a grind, a
Yeah.
different way of grinding. So my mother always had this philosophy. She said, baby, you should really consider when you buy properties or look at investments, you need to pay them off. Why have a lot of debt? That's how she thought. She's not even here. So when she thought that way, for those who had all those properties in 2006, 7, and 8, they were over leveraged, if you will. They had
Mhm.
more debt than the income could that would take care of it. So they had to let it go. If they had taken my mother's advice, and a lot of times when you own a lot of properties, some cash flow more than others. So you can take a principle where you can say, okay, these are cash flowing more. You can pay down these others, and oh, got one that's free. Now that one's free and clear. Let's go pay down some of these others. So that was her mindset, not that you keep a lot of debt. Now, there's a lot of people that will argue that. A lot of investors will argue that. Other people's money. And I start saying, okay, but other people's hands are in your money. What if it was all your income that was coming in from the investment? But that's an option. It's a different way of looking at things. So she always had a different way of looking at things, and she always challenged the status quo because most people would think, oh, okay, I have these investment properties. I'll take the extra, $400 or $500 a month that each is giving me and just stay right there and not think, why don't I pay down this debt? And now I may, if you're renting it out for $2,000 a month, yes, you're going to have a few expenses to maintain it, but now your cash flow just went up. So you don't,
Sure. I mean, there's different strategies, right? But
yeah,
she chose one and she followed through with her, she was in integrity with it. And it sounds
right.
like she benefited from that. I mean, she was playing that game of Monopoly, right? So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And you mentioned Monopoly. That's one game we used to play when we were in like elementary and middle school. My mother would stay up many, many days playing Monopoly with us over and over and over again. And she was training our minds as a child to think about acquisition, different perspectives.
That is so smart and so cool. That's amazing. So what would you say is the words of wisdom? Because that's how this whole thing kind of started, like words of wisdom from my mother. What is the top thing that just jumps out at you? And maybe it was around business, maybe it was around personality or character qualities. I don't know. What is that primary thing that jumps out to you?
Well, the primary thing that jumps out to me that my mother would say to me over and over. Now, each child was different. She had a word for each of us. But one thing my mother kept telling me, she said, baby, I want you to learn how to encourage yourself. She kept saying that to me over
So amazing. What an
and
amazing thing. Okay. I want you to learn to encourage yourself.
I
Wow.
want you to learn how to encourage yourself. And I think she kept, and I'm guessing. There's another one that came to mind too, but I'm guessing as to why she kept telling me that over and over and over again. And I think because a lot of times when you're in a leadership role, you're a set apart. When you're at the top of what you're doing, you don't always have a lot of people that you can bounce ideas off of. So one thing you have to do is reach down deep and encourage yourself and leverage. I personally choose to leverage God's word to encourage me through any challenge. And depending on where I am in life, there's a different part of the scripture that I leverage.
Yeah.
One major part that I used when I was in the grind in the E quadrant is to do not cast your confidence aside. Because I was the only female in the room a lot of times. That was a person of color. I have an engineering background too, and I'm in there with all of these white males. And then there's times where I would show up when they have just fired a team of white males because they couldn't solve the problem, and here I come. So my mother had
Oh,
to
I
say,
love that. That's
"You,
fun. Yeah. And they're all just looking at you. But this is so awesome. These do not cast your confidence aside. Okay.
yes," because when you do, people like to pull it down if they can, but if you hold on to it and know, that's why my mother was really big on education, training. You can go to seminars. My mother would spend her hard earned money. I say hard earned, she did such good with her money, but I remember when I was in middle school going to seminars on money, investing.
What?
Outstanding.
That just didn't happen.
She did
Oh
that
my
to my
gosh. I mean, at least in my generation, like that was, well, no, nothing was talked about. I mean, it's crazy to me how even now it's just becoming a conversation, even like with teenagers. And I don't know how much that's even happening, to be honest. I think we're just touching the tip of the iceberg, but that's incredible that she was taking, like that what happened to her that she understood that she needed to be educated from. Did she learn this from your grandfather about
Well, that's an excellent question. So my mother would give us cards. I'm taking a roundabout way to answer it. My mother
Sure,
would
it's
give us,
great.
okay, my mother would give us these cards, and she would send them to me all the time. I've always lived outside of Colorado. I prefer big cities. So she would spend half the year with me and half the year with my brother. She didn't make any differences between us. She treated us equally. She didn't do more for one than the other. She just was not about that. And so she would send me cards. And I keep all my cards now that she's gone in this little box. And I'll pull out a card, and it's always relevant to now. And I pulled out this card that said, because I asked the same question, Michelle. I was like, how did my mother know all this? Once she left, I said, how did she know all this? So I pulled out this card, and it said, never forget where you came from. And I thought, what does she really mean by that? She's not here. I can't just go and say, Mother, what did you mean by that? Right.
Right.
So I started in doing research on our family history and where her family came from. And
Oh,
so
wow.
as I did that, I found out that her family, her uncles, my great grandfather, his children, they all owned different businesses. And so I think she got that from them and their exposure.
That's so great. I just absolutely love that. So you grew up with values, like she was living her values, and one of those was keep learning. And I love that
Right?
you already mentioned this. I mean, that was the first thing you said. Go learn, educate yourself, upgrade your skill, whatever. So, gosh, I wish I would have met her. She just sounds like a firecracker. She was
She
making
was.
decisions and then just acting on them. Do not cast your confidence aside. And then you have this incredible phrase of wisdom that I want you to learn how to encourage yourself.
Mhm.
And to me, honestly, Sabrina, like that is everything. I just did a podcast a couple days ago where, I mean, that was the takeaway. And it's always the takeaway, which is if you want something, give it to yourself. Like, and you're talking about, I mean, with all due respect to all my good buddies, but Like men tend to, it seems like it's easier for them to take what they want. They see something, they start a business. This is why they ask for more money. This is why they get paid more. This is why they get more funding for businesses, because they assume their worth. They do not cast their confidence aside. And I think these are the two biggest issues with women, at least the ones that I tend to work with. Maybe I'm attracting them, I don't know. But it is, we cast our confidence aside immediately, go into doubt anytime we want anything. We don't just hold on to our confidence, step forward and take it and assume we can have it. We throw away our confidence, look around and say, and look for someone to tell us it's okay. Is it okay? Do I deserve it? Am I worthy? Can I take the next step? It's just silliness. And yet it is so conditioned into us. So if anyone who's listening to this, to me, those are power phrases. I mean, just write that on your heart and take that out into the world and see what happens next. Crazy. And also that statement, I want you to learn how. It also opens the door and gives you permission. Like, it's not about just assuming everything is fine, but go through a process, allow yourself to explore what that means, and different ways of what works for you might be, versus what works for somebody else. I just think that we're just like, that's a very deep request.
Mhm. That's something that I will be working on my whole life.
Yeah.
It's not something to wake up, ladies, and be like, "Oh, I got it." It's because we're going to be having different challenges. We're going to have different problems to solve. We're going to have different things happen to us in the seasons of our lives. So we have to still encourage ourselves through them. In fact, she would say that to me all the time. And while I was listening to you, Michelle, she did tell me how in a way too, because she had this picture. If each of you can imagine this string and this little baby kitten hanging on the end of the string, he's just barely hanging on. And
Oh, I remember that picture.
yes, and then on the left hand side, there's all the alphabets, A through Z. And each one is something you can do to regenerate that confidence, reassess where you are. Like, oh, what is going on? Sometimes I actually hang it in the closet where I spend a lot of time getting dressed. You're always going in and out in your closet. So I see, even though I'm staying at my brother's, I took that picture out of storage and made sure it stayed with me, because I go in there and I can look, and I'll look at a letter, and it's like my eyes would go right to the letter that I need for where I am in the moment. So
Oh.
yes, she's so wise. It's like she knew. My brother and I were saying it's almost like she knew that 2020 was coming way before 2020 came.
Wow, that's amazing. So these are like quality. When you said that, I was imagining that old poster of the cat that was like hanging there, right? I think were the words. So she had different quality, like character qualities to focus on, like
Well,
persistence or something like that, or what were the
well,
words in the alphabet?
you know what?
Action. Take
Well,
action.
that's good. It was purposely, I did not memorize them on purpose, because I wanted to be able to just look at the moment and say, yes, these take nap as needed, you know, because a lot of us
I
don't even
love
nap.
that. Okay, yeah. So it's like when you open a book and you're like, okay, wherever I open the book today, that's my message.
Yes.
Okay, really, really like that. That's so meaningful. What an amazing mom. What an amazing experience you've had with an influence like that. Um, built-in mentor and guide worth having as an entrepreneur, and she's your mom.
Yes, yes. And I know a lot of us, all of her children included, there's some times when we didn't want to hear it. We did not want to hear what she had to say. But we knew that number one, we respected her. And number two, if we didn't, and we had this conversation as children, we said, you know what, if mother's telling us something, we can, and my brother started this concept. He said, it might not be relevant now, but our mother's not going to be here with us forever. So we should take it, file it away, and when we need it, voila, there it is. So, sometimes she'd be telling us stuff, and it's like, okay, I don't really want to hear this now, but my mother's not going to be here. See, we prepare ourselves for, okay, I don't want to hear this right now, but my mother has my best interest at heart. She wants me to do well. She really loves me. She's taking time with me. So many people don't have a mother that took time. That's why she had so many extra sons and a few extra daughters, because not all of their parents were there for them when my mother was.
So she was mentoring all these kids.
Yes.
Wow, Sabrina. And so you write about her in this book. And what is the name of the book?
It's called Limitless Success. It's a top.
Okay, great. And so we're kind of coming to the end of our time. And I feel like we're just getting started, which is crazy. So everyone just know that Sabrina will be back. She'll be teaching on a number of things and sharing what she does. And you can reach out to her. We'll have all of her contact information, her book, and all of that. But what would you like to leave these ladies with?
Oh, my favorite right now is never give up. Because a lot of times the people closest to us will challenge where we know we're destined to go. So if you know you're destined to do something and you're doing it and it may not be working right now, don't give up. Do not give up, because they'll be like, oh, see, it's not working. I thought this was going to work. Not every, there's things that you have to go through to set yourself up to win. So be patient with yourself. Never give up, and keep fighting for your dream.
I can't even say anything about that. That's it. How many of us give up before we even take that leap?
Right.
So those are the three big takeaways, I think. I just love what you said about don't cast your courage to the side, or is that how you said it?
Courage is important too, because you have to
Oh,
do.
I'm sorry. You said confidence. You said confidence. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't cast your confidence to the side. Well, encouragement contains the word courage, right? And that's what I was thinking when you were talking about that. Encourage, that root word is heart. So I was thinking about that too as you were talking, how it's just so loaded with depth to contemplate, and it's going to mean something different to each person. But I think those three things, and it doesn't matter if you are starting a business or if you are in the E quadrant, or maybe you're just wanting to go on a fitness journey. Maybe you're trying to rebuild a relationship. Maybe you're just needing to let go of a bunch of stuff so you can figure out what your dream is. And holding tight to like those principles, those are just beautiful. And I mean, that's like a whole book right there, just complete your triad, right? I love that.
Yes.
Wow. Well, Sabrina, this has been just a delight. I know we kind of went off in a different direction, but we wanted it to be that way, just very authentic and organic. And that's what we did. So there will be other opportunities when she'll come in to teach on something very specific, and that will be coming up pretty soon. But Sabrina, I just want to thank you again for sharing who you are. I'm excited to learn more about you. And what was your mom's name?
Earlene.
I never even asked you her name.
Earlene. Her name was Earlene. She was named after her favorite Uncle Earl.
I feel like this is a movie waiting to be, or like a novel waiting to be written. I haven't read your book yet about her, but I'm eager to read that. And I know you've got some videos and stuff like that that share your, what you're doing. So all will be able to access all of that. But I just want to pour out my gratitude to you one more time. And I can't wait to learn more. And thank you so much for just being willing to share with the ladies who have the opportunity to learn from you and from Arlene. And thank
Yes.
you, Arlene. We love you. We know that you're here with us.
Yes, and I wanted to say thank you so much for having me today. And then, ladies, if there is a particular topic that you would like to hear more about, let us know. And I'd be happy to accommodate you, which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll have an opportunity on the live Q&As to do that too. So anybody that doesn't know about that yet, that's happening every month. And you can actually come and ask questions directly to Sabrina, like, or whoever's there. Sabrina will be there, I'm sure, as often as possible. So yeah, lots more opportunity. This is really, truly just an introduction to what we'll be doing here. So again, thank you so much. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sabrina. Ciao for now.